Hi, I'm Carl Pearson, and the video is entitled Scaled Financial Relief for the 99% is Needed in this Dead Economy. I've been cooped up in New York City in a self-inflicted stay-at-home quarantine for the past 68 days, and I've had free time as a result to hear a lot of discussion about Congress, Republicans, Democrats, and the President considering programs to provide financial aid, that is billions if not trillions of dollars, to very specific and highly selective parts of the economy, such as cruise ship companies, certain foreign companies, selected universities among the nation's 2,832 four-year colleges and universities, a small number, if any, of the nation's 6,000 hospitals that are not federally owned, newly formed PPE manufacturers and brokers that never had any business experience whatsoever in anything, employees of big business, major banks, no small banks, and even unnecessary former employees of a token number of the nation's 27 million small businesses. Look, the economy is overcomplicated and enables the super rich and their purchased politicians to give away your tax money to the rich, while the politicians are able to tell you that you are going to be helped in future legislation. You have got to realize that this is not going to happen for all but a token few. A token few is all they need to be able to say they've helped small business or they've helped renters or homeowners. They're not going to. And please listen to what I have to say, because it is what should be happening, but of course will not, unless there's enough demand for what I'm going to say. Nobody has outlined or even discussed needed immediate automatic financial relief which should be given to 99% of the economy, to all but the top 1%, which generally doesn't need any financial relief at all. Look, we all need relief, and is there any way of having a universal program so all of us get it and don't have to apply for it, but we're just automatically given that? And here's what I've come up with. But first, I'm 83 years old, a high school dropout. I received my BA magna cum laude in political science. I'm a graduate of Harvard Law School, and I have a small foreclosure defense law practice in New York, New York, which is very much adversely affected by the pandemic. Just to set the record straight, I applied for a PPP loan last month under the CARES Act, and I couldn't expect anything other than that, was rejected. But it doesn't really matter to me, because the money I should have received would only have covered my business expenses for several days and would have required me to take back and pay persons I no longer need and would have to be repaid at that. So I have lost all interest in the type of relief that is able to get through Congress. We, the 99%, need something far different. Now let me explain what that is. I've tried to reach elected officials and the media many times without success, which should help you realize that Congress is not going to do anything other than make it appear that it is trying to help, while it continues to give your tax money away generally to the top 1%. Look, $50 billion for small business, that's in a bill that's now being prepared by a Democratic senator, isn't much at all when distributed to 27 million small businesses, including me. It's only $1,782 for each small business. And this is less than 1 month's rent for the average renter in the United States, the average homeowner renter. So you and I are on our own and have to fend for ourselves. The nation has become a debt economy where almost all major items are securitized into secured debt with the evidences of the debt owned by the rich, such as the homes, condos, co-ops, commercial buildings, student loans, trucks, cars, vans, boats, airplanes, motorcycles, refrigerators. Oh, and let's not forget about credit card debt. Options, puts, calls, strips and straddles, and even securities called stock index futures based on stock market prices. Everything is a security now. And you don't own it. The 1% does. There is an industry looking to securitize almost anything, because someone will often pay twice as much as the intangible is really worth when created, and especially when the secured items are sold at auction. They hope that they will be owning it as it rides up and selling it before it goes down. But that isn't for you and me. As you are painfully aware as a result of the pandemic, money is king. If you have money, you can ride out the pandemic, even take a vacation or two to play golf. But if you are jobless and spent your last $400 on food and have no more credit or credit card availability and have a hungry family to feed, you understand what I mean by money is king. In a depression, the persons with money are able to buy your possessions at lower and lower prices, enabling an even greater transfer of wealth upward to the already rich. Credit works in the same way. The people who own the intangible credit obligations are generally the rich. And in a depression, they own debt obligations which take anywhere from 1 to 10 times your reduced earning power to pay off, and of course, therefore, buy 1 to 10 times as much as they were able to buy prior to the huge depression, making them far richer as a result of this huge depression. Of course, most persons see that they could never pay off their obligations if they are now out of a job, and have mere expectations, if they are lucky, of getting a warehouse job a year from now paying $10 to $15 an hour, and probably to decrease in the hourly rate as more people become unemployed or lose their small businesses. What obviously is needed in a major depression is a scaling down of the outstanding debt to a more realistic and perhaps scaled value as the economy leaves the bottom and starts returning to some unknown extent, so that debt payment can take place at the current reduced salary and huge unemployment levels. Meanwhile, until increased employment can start paying the reduced debt, the federal government needs to pay the rent for home and apartment renters and small business commercial renters until employment can do so, and the home and small business mortgages until the mortgagor is able to do so for the mortgage debt. The legislation would have the federal government assume for all the scaled down debt other than for companies of a certain size and cash position, and use tax reports and monthly or quarterly financial statements to determine if any change in relief is warranted. The legislation needs to be automatically effective, like a mortgage or eviction moratorium, but go further by covering the problem that leads to evictions and foreclosures in a huge depression. If we are to save small business from being lost forever, and if we are to prevent tens of millions of families from being tossed into the streets, parks, cars, and public transportation, buses and subways, and hospitals and jails. The legislation is needed immediately to save as many small businesses and tenants and mortgagors as possible, and needs to be automatically applicable upon filing of a list of obligations, so that the federal government starts covering those obligations as outlined in the needed legislation. The scaling down also needs to be done at the same time and automatically. Congress predictably has been unfair, handing out trillions of dollars in relief mainly to the 1% and friends to enable them to join the 1%, and this of course is unfair. We need legislation for the 99%, which seems to exactly what I have outlined in this video. In this way we can pause the economy, scale it downward to its present level, and save homeowners, renters, small businesses, and mortgagors, so they will still be participants in the economy as it increases to whatever level from its lowest point. Well, it's complicated, and I've said what I plan to say, so I'll say so long until my next video.